Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry, and it's a pleasure to be here with you once again for another episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. It is Wednesday, October 9th, about 7:33 p.m. I hope you had a great week since we last got a chance to touch base, to chat, to share ideas, to share perspectives. And I'm back again for another week. This is I'll probably have 2 more episodes before I go on the hiatus as I go through knee replacement surgery. So today I had my pre-surgical exam or pre-surgical testing, I should say. So when I come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, and then we're going to talk a little bit of politics, and that will be it for this week. So sit back, relax, and I'll be right back with you. All right, I'm back, and again, it's a pleasure to be here with you for another week. First and foremost, let me say prayers go out to those people in Florida tonight on the coast near Tampa and Orlando, as we have another hurricane barreling down. I think it's Milton. They just had Helene, and it's kind of like a 1-2 punch. I have a few friends who have homes in Tampa. I have a lot of people in Orlando. Be safe. I hope that if it was prudent to get out, that you got out. I'm a tech person. I have a lot of gadgets around here. I've got a lot of the, material things, but nothing is worth your life. As long as you have life and you have strength and you have faith, you can always rebuild. And I believe, as least a man of faith, that God will guide you back to where you were and better than you were before. But certainly don't think that you're going to hold on to a few material things and ride these storms out. They can be deadly, and we've got enough involuntary loss of life. Don't make yours a sacrifice. So let's talk a little bit about my day today. I went to pre-surgical testing. I remember years ago I had an umbilical hernia operation, but it was sort of an emergency. There was no pre-surgical testing, really. I did have to go to the hospital, and I don't want to say 100% because I don't remember exactly what they did. I think they took a lot of documents from my PCP, and then I think I had to do, there was some test I had to go somewhere to do, and that was it. This case, it was amazingly thorough. First of all, I have to say that my wife, who works with training doctors and patient experience, talks a lot about it, and it is evident that in this day and age, and I'm so happy to see it, that hospitals, medical institutions, especially the larger ones that have more of a presence, are doing a lot to make their patients feel comfortable, welcome, and equally treated with the same respect as everyone else. There were a lot of forms to fill out, and it was really, other than the allergy stuff and the medical history, a lot of the forms were consent. There's a lot of legal risks tied to medical treatment, so hospitals make sure that they're completely in the clear by making you consent to every single thing: information sharing, treatments, tests, everything. So I did that. It wasn't long before they came and got me, and I went in to see a nurse who was amazingly pleasant. They took what seems like a gallon of blood. It was probably about 7 vials of blood. And then did my blood pressure. They did an EKG. I'm happy to report that my heart is in great condition. Nurse practitioner came in, went over every single detail of the surgery, what to expect. They provided you with things like shampoos to use on your whole body after you take a regular shower with your own soaps, but to apply specifically to, like in my case, around the entire knee, 3 consecutive days before surgery. And that kind of shampoo makes sure that it kills as much of the germs as possible. They did that staph test with the swab in the nose. It's something that people sometimes have when they don't know they have. And if they test positive, then they told me they would send a prescription for an ointment to be applied within the nose for 5 days to make sure that there was no possible chance of infection there. And this is along with all the other things they'll do in the operating room to make sure that everything is sterile. It is amazing when you compare it to third world countries without putting anybody on blast. My first child, even though he's an American citizen, was not born here. He immediately became an American citizen through a process via me because I'm an American citizen, but he was born not in the United States, not in a country that has the sophistication and that takes the care that the United States does. And I never forget that my wife had a C-section, and this may be a bit nauseating or gory, so forgive me, but I want to make the comparison. Not long after her C-section, I think she collapsed. She went back to the hospital. She had an infection, and on the cut where they became so infected that as she was in so much pain that one night she showed me, and it looked really puffy, like you would see something that has inflammation in it. And I, kind of gently squeezed it, and the inflammation started to come out. And I filled up a shopping bag full of, no exaggeration, of paper towels with inflammation. Suffice to say that she had to go to the hospital. They had to reopen the C-section incision and treat it and kill the infection that had occurred within the operating room. So, it was very heartening to see how people greeted me, how people took the care like I'm just another person in a hospital. But they made me feel like whenever I was being attended to, all that mattered was me, and that was so heartening to see. Subsequently, I went to see a physical therapist, a lady who I believe I know what she's not American. She may be American citizen. She's not born in America. I could tell from her accent. She was quickly able to tell that I'm originally from Barbados, but she was so pleasant. She went over every single thing I could think about physical therapy. She gave official advice, and then she gave some helpful off-the-record advice as to how to approach this so that I would have whatever the best experience can be. Everyone assured me that they would do the best to provide pain management. They told me that after the surgery, which is usually done in the mornings, I think the surgery starts 7 o'clock in the mornings. So somewhere around that, between 7 and 9 a.m., I would have my surgery. Then I'd be in the recovery room. About 5 hours later, once I was stable, once I had completely worn off of the anesthesia, once the pain management had been administered, they would get me up and I would have to start walking. That's a little scary, right? I got to be honest with you. Going through the pre-surgical testing today, there were many times in my mind said, Julian, what are you doing? Why don't you just, use pain meds and just deal with this for the rest of your life? Is this worth it? And then my mind will flash back to the visual of the doctor showing me the x-rays and seeing in both of my knees bone on bone. There is no way that, if God blesses me, I'm hoping to follow in my parents' footsteps. My father's going to be 93 in January. My mother died from diabetes, otherwise healthy at 86. So if I meet even her age, you know, I can't imagine going through life to that age with bone on bone. I'd probably be in a wheelchair because, this is a form of arthritis, right? If you people think about arthritis as all pain in my joints, but it's more of a deterioration of the bone, and in this surgery they cut off the arthritic bone and they replace it with the kneecap and build it up, and so whatever time it took in your life to become arthritic, you know you have new life in your limbs, and I guess that's worth going through anything. I also reflect on a staff member of mine. Um, he just had the surgery. He had a triple bypass heart surgery, and he's Asian, and I say he's Asian only to point out that he's very light, light in complexion. So he raised his shirt up, and you could see this long red cut all the way down his chest, and it was startling to see because you have to recognize that during the surgery, they would have cut him open down his chest, spread his rib cage with a rib cage spreader, gone into his heart. I think they actually connect something that pumps your blood, and they stopped the heart and they took 3 arteries or whatever from his leg, and they put them in there, and then they restart the heart, make sure it's beating normally. Then they close up the chest while they're suctioning the blood, and they sew you back up. And he's walking around today. He told me he's so much better because he had real shortness of breath and the 3 arteries were blocked. I think he said like he only had like 20% use of them or something like that. So he was in bad shape. Not that, he's not old, he's not young. I don't think he's 60 yet. And so I said to him, weren't you scared? He said, no. I said, why not? He says, well, I have insurance. My family will be taken care of. This is what they need to do to give me a chance at a better life. Without doing it, I would have died. So I just did it. And while I don't know what type of pain he was in because he had pain meds too, but his pain was mostly the healing, right? It's not like he didn't have to walk on a limb. But when you consider that once that's over and you reflect back, and I can come on this podcast and tell you, hey, it was very painful, but I can run. I mean, it'll be a while, right? Because once it's healed and I can actually run, then I have to do the other knee. My wife wanted them to do both at the same time if possible. I didn't think they would allow it, and the surgeon said no, simply because when they were showing me in physical therapy today how you would go up and down stairs, and they actually have stairs in the physical therapy room. There's something like going up the stairs, it's good leg, bad leg. Coming down the stairs, it's a bad leg, good leg. I couldn't imagine if it was bad leg, right? So anyway, that's my progress report for today. Surgery is still set for the August to October 29th. I'm still waiting to get approval from my job so that once, the first few days are over, I can work from home. They want me sitting up every day. They want me walking every day. So since my job entails meetings and being in front of a computer, there's no reason why I can't, as long as I get the approvals. The recovery time to walking. Oh, the insurance, it provides you with, I forgot this part, a walker. I have to buy my own cane. I already have one because my wife had ACL surgery years ago. And I have to buy a 3-in-1 commode to be able to sit, because you have to sit high up on the toilet if you have to use a toilet. And the insurance either won't pay for a commode, or if they do, they'll charge you an arm and a leg if you get it through them. So my good friend Amazon will take care of that for me. They will send the walker to the house prior to the surgery, so when I leave, I have the walker. They give instructions in the home. They ask you a lot of questions about the layout of your house and where the bathrooms are and what stairs you have to climb and what your front steps look like and what stairs have rails and which bathroom do you have, a walk-in bathroom, and all these sorts of things. So it was very thorough, and like I said, very heartening to see the care and that they take each and every patient. So tomorrow I have my meeting, my appointment with my PCP for medical clearance. Friday, I have a appointment with a radiology center for a CT scan of the knee. And then the only outstanding thing will be the approval for my job. And then we just wait for the day and the call from the day before. I'm telling you all this because there are other people who will go through this, and I met many people who were curious about the process. So I'll share mine with you. I'll live through it with you. And since they want me to be sitting and to be up, if at all possible, because my neighbor has a walker that has a chair, and I promise you that if the pain management is really good, and I can sit in that walker with the chair and record a podcast episode right here. So that means moving this chair and replacing it in the middle of my rehabilitation or early. I will come back and I will speak with you. I will let you know about the pain, about the challenges. The fact is, we're all getting old, and out of all my pretty sizable audience that I'm so thankful for, between the audio and the YouTube, I cannot be the only one who's going through this or who's considering it and who's in pain and wondering if they should go through it. So I'll share my journey. You'll live this with me. As I said, if I can sit here with the walker, with the chair, my neighbor, I can borrow it from him. He's offered it, and I'll be a little high up. But if I can adjust the camera and I can speak with you, even if they're short episodes, you will hear from me. I would love to be able to do that the week after my surgery, because that will be election night, right? And that's a good segue into the short conversation I'll have with you tonight. And that's about the fear of polls. What am I talking about? On my computer, if you have a Windows computer and you go to the corner, I'm looking at one on the side here, the corner left hand, where there's a widget that shows the weather, and you click on it, and excuse me reaching across from the camera, but I'm trying to see. It brings up a screen with news. Right now it says Trump takes 18-point lead in the election prediction model. And that is the Daily Mail. Now, the Daily Mail is a highly conservative news outlet that if you want to hear everything bad about a Democrat and everything good about a Republican, go check out the Daily Mail. It says Trump takes 18-point lead. Now, I don't think anyone at this point is predicting that anyone has an 18-point lead. I mean, that's ridiculous. But that's the fear of the polls. And I'm here to talk to you just for a few moments about polls and ask you to join me in spreading this conversation. It's really, really important. Human beings, we are emotional creatures. Whomever we want to win, even if outwardly we don't show it, and even like me, or I'm independent, deep inside of me, even as an independent, if I had my choice, I would choose one candidate over the other. I think that's all of us, because there's two main parties who have candidates. Even the independent candidate is now out of the race. It is foolish to try to sit here and say that we don't have an emotional attachment to elections. We do. And many of us have fears. Republicans have fears of what liberals would do. And because of what's happened recently, many liberals have fears of what Republicans would do. Many people have fears of what Trump would mean for America. Many people have fears of what Harris would mean for America. And the fact of the matter is, the media, the evil media, knows this. So they release these polls that keep you on a roller coaster. They keep you glued to the TV. That's why many people I know refuse to watch TV at all. They play with your emotions. It almost feels like the news media wakes up in the morning and says, which side are we going to impact today, and who are we going to send into euphoria and happy, and who are we going to send into depression? Let's wake up this morning and let's say Trump has an 18-point lead. And then tomorrow, a liberal media outlet will come back and say Harris is leading nationally and in all the swing states. First of all, who are they polling? Let's back up a second. Are they really conducting polls? I've gotten a few calls over the years where people have asked for my opinion. I get a lot of text messages asking me who I will vote for, who I will support. And no matter which side, I've gotten them from both conservative and liberal, so both for Trump and Harris. I don't know where these people get my phone number from, but each time I reply, stop, which is the option to opt out. And the next day more will come from a different phone number. But what these people are doing is playing with you. There are, if we add up the last election, there were about maybe almost 160 million votes. These polls are usually done with 1,000 people. So if I want a poll, if I have to meet certain criteria to say that I am a media outlet with integrity, and that means numbers, that means I have to poll a minimum of 1,000 people. If I pull the phone numbers of people in specific neighborhoods, I can determine the outcome of that poll before I conduct the poll. So I can go to a predominantly colored neighborhood of color, and I will get a lopsided poll that's liberal. I can go to a predominantly Republican neighborhood, Caucasian neighborhood, upper class neighborhood, capitalist neighborhood, and I'm likely to get a poll that's predominantly conservative. And then I bring these numbers out that are so lopsided. And when you see something from, and then the Daily Mail, I mean, people should stop allowing these people even to have influence in the media. If I have friends on Facebook, people I grew up with, who I used to see last election posting these really horrible things about President Biden. And when I looked at the link, the source was always the Daily Mail. What did I do? Eventually, I unfriended them. Not because I have a problem with them being entitled to their own opinion, but because they reveled in spreading propaganda. There was one person who was doing it, was a friend I grew up with who was a lawyer. He had to know this garbage that he was spewing had to come from a place of prejudice, of ill intent. So I will tell you this. Be careful with polls. There have been many elections where candidates who were expected to win lost because what did the opposite side do? They played with emotions, but they did the reverse, what they call Uno reverse. Let's say hypothetically, a liberal candidate, the Democrat, was expected to win. They purposely posted polls that showed the Democrat winning by such a landslide that many liberals did not go out and vote. They're like, what's the point? He's going to win anyway. I don't need to vote. I can go have ice cream instead. And then next day they were in tears because their candidate lost. Because enough people didn't vote. The last election was polarizing, right? People were either, and I don't think that was a necessarily pro-democratic, and I'm speaking my mind here. I think based on a lot of dynamics, that was an anti-Trump vote. And people came out and voted. To this day, he claims that the election was rigged, which has been completely unsubstantiated. It's been proven false. But people came out and voted. And whomever wins this election in a few weeks, you have to go out and vote. Whoever wins this election must win it because the majority of voters said, we want you. No one should win this next election because people simply said, I don't care. And I have people, friends of mine, who are telling me they're not going to vote. Look, I know you're disillusioned, many of you. You're upset with the Democratic Party. You're upset with the Republican Party. So you decide that your protest is not to vote. I remind you that no matter what election it is, you're always going to have to choose the lesser of two evils according to your principles. Because the bottom line is there will never be a perfect candidate. So you have to decide which person will be better for my life, and then go out and cast your vote, even though that person may only represent a certain percentage of what you believe to be true and righteous. But not exercising your votes could end up being the downfall of the person who would actually have helped you. And then you're going to spend the next 4 years complaining about how bad things are, or in an even more sour mode than you are now. Not voting is not an option. Go out and vote. Whether Donald Trump wins or Kamala Harris wins, it must be because every single eligible voter voted. And I'm going to repeat this message for the next 2 episodes, live episodes. And please, for 4 years, I've sat in front of this camera. For 4 years, I've asked you to like and subscribe. But most important, for 4 years, I've asked you to share this podcast. If you've been completely uninterested in all of my 220-something episodes, please make the effort this time. Share this message. Take the time to be proactive and tell the next person, vote. Don't tell them who to vote for. If they want to have a political conversation with you, that's a different conversation. But encourage everyone to go out there and exercise their right. I personally will be doing a mail-in ballot for the first time, because on election day, I will not be in a fit position to walk to go to the polls. So I'm making sure that I applied for a mail-in ballot because my vote counts, not just for the bigger picture of the majority of people chose a president, but because people like me, people of color, lost their lives to fight for the right for us to vote. And whether or not you're disillusioned with these candidates is not what I'm debating. But for you to decide that you will not exercise a right that someone died for, so you have that right, is unacceptable. Irrespective of how sour you are about the current political climate, let the next president, the choice of the president, be the will of the American people, because the majority of all eligible voters voted for that candidate. I mean, if there are 160 million eligible voters, let us all do our part in encouraging everyone. Go pick someone up in your car who is eligible to vote but doesn't have transportation. Get together with some members in your community and rent a bus to take the elderly to the polls, the handicapped to the polls, those in wheelchairs to the polls. Offer your help as an American citizen. Be selfless on that day. This is such a critical time in our history, in our lives. There are wars going on overseas. Many episodes ago, I talked about World War III. Some people were like startled. Some people were like, I agree with you. Some people were like, nah. Look what's happening right now. Look how the war that started with Israel and Hamas is ballooning. Look at the rest of the world. Look at Ukraine and Russia, how long that's going on. Look at Hezbollah and Iran and all these people getting involved now. Look at what's happening in the world. What happens now for America and the choices we make can not only be historic, but it will shape our future. This is a critical time in our lives. It is not a time for you to decide that you're going to be a spoiled kid and fold your arms and say, I'm not opening my mouth to take the spoon of food. You're not a baby. You are a responsible adult who is responsible as part of the numbers that will be the deciding vote to shape our future. If there are 160 approximately eligible, 160 million approximately eligible votes in the United States. Let's make sure that when they add up the votes for the two candidates, we get as close to that number as possible. Speak to your health centers, speak to your neighborhood advocates, find out who needs help getting to the polls. Take the day off from work and use your transportation. Or if you don't have transportation, but you can help someone who needs help walking, someone to hold their hand to get to the polls. Go to your job and say, I need to vote. Most jobs give people time to get to the polls. The lines may be long. Your legs may hurt. If I wasn't having my surgery and I had to go join a long line and drink painkillers and stand there rubbing my sore knees so I could vote, that's what I would do. Not voting is not an option. Not sharing this message is not an option. Not doing your part to make sure the will of the American people, whatever it is not an option. Remember that. Keep that in your minds. And let's start now, a few weeks before, making sure that we energize, we advocate, and we be selfless in making sure that we're a part of what America's future looks like. Thanks again, as always, for allowing me to be a part of your life and being a part of your home and a part of my audience and a message to you. Like, subscribe, share. The bigger you make me, the bigger you make my message. I thank you so much. Do have a great week ahead. Enjoy your weekend. Again, to those in Florida and those in the line of the path of the hurricane, be safe. And those otherwise, be safe. Let's continue to look out for each other and truly earn the right to occupy a space on this place we call Earth and in this journey we call life. Thanks again. Do have a great week. Until we speak again, please take care of yourselves and take the time to take care of each other.